মন্ত্রী, অন্যান্য মন্ত্রণালয়ের সদস্য, এবং এই মন্ত্রণালয় আমাদের ক্যাথলিক মন্ডলীর বিশপ কনফারেন্স রয়েছে। এখানে যে 15টা কমিশন রয়েছে, এই কমিশনের মধ্যে একটা কমিশন হলো বিশ্বপীয় ন্যায় ও শান্তি কমিশন। তাহলে ওই সমন্বিত মানব উন্নয়ন মন্ত্রণালয় এবং বাংলাদেশের বিশ্বপীয় ন্যায় ও শান্তি কমিশন আমরা একসাথে মিলিত হয়ে কাজ করি, একই ধরনের কাজ। এবং আমাদের মহামান্য কার্ডিনাল মাইকেল ফেলিক্স চের্নি, তার কাজ মূলত অভিবাসীদের নিয়ে, এবং 2 রকম অভিবাসী আছে, তারা এক দেশ থেকে অন্য দেশে যায় এবং অভিবাসন করে। আরেকটা হলো জলবায়ুর কারণে নিজস্ব দেশের ভিতরে যারা জোরপূর্বক, অর্থাৎ তারা ইচ্ছা না থাকলেও নিজের বাসভূমি ছেড়ে অন্য জায়গায় চলে যেতে বাধ্য হয় জীবন জীবিকার জন্য, তাদের জন্য কাজ করে। এবং জলবায়ু সংক্রান্ত, পরিবর্তন সংক্রান্ত যে চ্যালেঞ্জগুলো আছে সেগুলির জন্য কাজ করে। এবং আমাদের আজকে সকালে পথ শিশুদের জন্য আমাদের একটা বিকালে সমাবেশ হয়েছে। তাহলে যারা সুবিধা বঞ্চিত শিশু রয়েছে তাদের কথাও তিনি শোনেন, এবং হতদরিদ্র গরিব মানুষের যারা কারাবন্দী রয়েছে তাদের কথাও শোনেন। তো তিনি একজন আধ্যাত্মিক নেতা, কোন সিদ্ধান্ত দেওয়ার ইচ্ছা তার নাই, কিন্তু তিনি মানুষের কথা শোনেন এবং যারা হতদরিদ্র, সুবিধা বঞ্চিত, যারা ভয় শেষ করতে পারে না, তাদের হয়ে তিনি অন্যদেরকে সুপরামর্শ দিয়ে থাকেন আধ্যাত্মিক দিক থেকে। তাহলে তিনি বাংলাদেশে এসেছেন। বাংলাদেশে এসে তিনি আমাদের প্রার্থনা, ধর্মীয় যে প্রার্থনা, সেগুলি পরিচালনা করেছেন গুরুত্বপূর্ণ জায়গায়। সেই সাথে আমাদের বাংলাদেশে উকিয়া যে অভিবাসী কেন্দ্র রয়েছে, শরণার্থী কেন্দ্র রয়েছে মিয়ানমার, সেখানেও তিনি গিয়েছেন, লোকদের কথা শুনেছেন, তাদের অবস্থা দেখেছেন, তাদের সাথে একাত্মতা প্রকাশ করেছেন, এবং তাদের জন্য যারা কাজ করছে তাদেরকেও তিনি সুপরামর্শ দিয়েছেন যেন ধৈর্য ধরে তাদের সাথে কাজ করেন, তাদের মানব মর্যাদা দিয়ে তিনি তারা যেন যত্নশীল হয়। সেই সাথে তিনি বাংলাদেশের একটা জায়গায়, মদনপুর, নারায়ণগঞ্জে আমাদের ফ্যাক্টরিতে যারা কাজ করে, বিশেষ করে উত্তরবঙ্গ থেকে যারা এসেছে এবং ছড়িয়ে ছিটিয়ে আছে, এই সমস্ত অভ্যন্তরীণ অভিবাসীদের সাথে প্রার্থনা পরিচালনা করেছেন, এবং সেই সাথে তাদের কথাও শুনেছেন, তাদের চ্যালেঞ্জগুলো, বিশেষ করে তাদের জীবনযাত্রার যে চ্যালেঞ্জ রয়েছে সেই চ্যালেঞ্জগুলো তারা তিনি শুনেছেন। এরপরে তিনি আমাদের আজকে এখানে বাংলাদেশ থেকে আমাদের খ্রিস্টান সম্প্রদায়ের বিভিন্ন প্রান্ত থেকে লোকজন এসেছে, প্রতিনিধি, সেই সাথে এবং আমাদের ধর্মীয় নেতা রয়েছে অন্যান্য ধর্মের, তারাও এখানে ছিলেন। এবং এর মধ্যে দিয়ে আমরা যে সমস্ত বিষয় রিফ্লেকশন করেছি বা উপস্থাপন হয়েছে, সেগুলো হলো মানুষের মর্যাদা উন্নয়নের যে বিষয়গুলো, যে সমস্ত মানুষ দুঃখ কষ্ট রয়েছে, বঞ্চিত রয়েছে, যে সমস্ত মানুষের কণ্ঠস্বর ও তারা বলতে পারে না, তাদের বিষয়গুলো আমরা এখানে তুলে ধরেছি। এবং তিনি এই সমস্ত মানুষের সাথে যারা কাজ করছে, বিশেষ করে আমাদের খ্রিস্টান সম্প্রদায়ের, তাদেরকে তিনি পরামর্শ দিয়েছেন যেন আমাদের কোনো সিদ্ধান্ত নেওয়ার আমাদের অধিকার আমাদের নাই, কিন্তু আমরা এই মানুষের পাশে দাঁড়াতে পারি, তাদের দুঃখ কষ্ট শুনতে পারি, তাদের বেদনার সাথে আমরা থাকতে পারি, মহোদয়ের যে বিষয় আছে সেগুলো আমরা বলতে পারি। এইভাবে এবং বিকালে সুবিধা বঞ্চিত শিশুদের সাথেও তিনি সময় কাটিয়েছেন 1 ঘন্টা। এবং এরপরে তিনি তার ব্যক্তিগত অনুভূতি আমাদের বিশপ কনফারেন্সের সাথে তুলে ধরেছেন, যেগুলো যিনি নাকি মান্ডলিক ধর্মীয় দায়িত্ব কর্তব্য রয়েছে এই মানুষগুলোর জন্য। আপনাদেরকে ধন্যবাদ জানাই যে আপনারা এখানে আসছেন এবং তার কাছে ধন্যবাদ সবাই।
Thank you for the Liton for your nice introduction. Now I would request to Ms. Francisca Duna to come forward and take seat. She is Secretary of His Eminence Cardinal Michael. Okay, sorry. Now it is question and answer session. I would request the journalist friend to ask. Okay. Now I would request to His Eminence Cardinal Michael Felix for his speech.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for this opportunity to meet. I'm very happy to be here in Bangladesh for the first time. And the main event was the 50th anniversary of the Justice and Peace Commission. And I had the opportunity to go yesterday to Cox's Bazar and visit the Rohingya camp. And I had other encounters with different people whom the church serves in helping people to overcome the very difficult situations that they face. For example, the street children or the garment workers. So thank you for your interest. I'm happy to answer your questions.
Thank you, His Eminence. Sorry, I made a mistake. Ms. Francisca Donna, she is regional coordinator for Asia Mainland. I would request to journalist friends to ask question. Their present guest will answer. You can, if you like to ask Fatma, you can ask Fatma.
Okay. Good afternoon, Mr. Felix. We congratulate you for your 4-year visit. I don't know whether it's the first or second, but if it's the first, we deeply congratulate you for the second time. And we are really glad that you visited Cox's Bazar, Narnath, and Dhaka, Mohammadpur. So what about your impression regarding the migrant worker situation in Narnath, especially? Cox's Bazar, because it's a Rohingya district, it's a lot of international activities are there. But regarding Narnath, we want to just give a brief of your expressions you visited. Thanks again, and have a good day.
Yes, both the two groups that you mentioned are each face different difficulties, and both of them are very challenging for the people in Cox's Bazar and the camp. It is, in fact, to be to be stateless, to be, in a sense, permanently unemployed, to be shut in, as they are in the camp. This is a situation which one could be tolerable for a month, but it is going on for years. And so on that one, it's a real shame that the international community has not been able to provide a solution to this problem. The question of migrant workers, or which I presume you mean people moving within the country, from one place to another looking for work, and facing the great difficulties of housing and schooling. Yes, this is also a big challenge, because they are attracted by the jobs in the industries, but the services that they should have as the ordinary services are very difficult to organize and to provide. And so they live, in some ways, they live as strangers in their own land. They don't really belong where they have come, and they cannot go back to where they came from. So again, we have great sympathy, and I very much admire what the church is able to do to accompany them, to help them to seek their rights and to find solutions to their problems.
Thank you.
Good evening. I have specifically two questions. One, you made visit to Rohingya community in Cox's Bazar. So my question is, what is your observation about the Rohingya people? They live without their homeland. And second question is, do you have any appeal to our global leaders about this Rohingya? And another question is, did you provide any specific direction to our CBCB Peace and Justice Commission regarding Christian and especially indigenous people's rights? Thank you.
So I think I've already answered the first question about the very difficult situation of the Rohingya people to have been driven out of their own home, their traditional home, their ancestral home, and to suddenly find themselves in this. We thank God they were welcomed, but the situation was dreadful, and people told me that the camp, while it's still very difficult, it's much better than it was. So we should be grateful for the welcome that they have received, and also hope that their conditions will improve, and most of all, hope that there will be a solution soon so that they can return to their homeland. Regarding regarding the church's response, I really had mostly only to express encouragement that the church is really responding in very needed and very meaningful ways, seeking out those who are most in need and helping them to meet those basic needs so that they can resume their lives in a normal and dignified way. And it is much to be admired that the church here in Bangladesh is very sensitive to the needs of, you might say, the new poor, people who suddenly find themselves in a very poor situation for whatever reasons and of whatever kind, but that the church is prompt in recognizing this need and in seeking to offer solutions. For example, to provide places for the garment workers to meet, to have their celebrations together, to feel that they have a proper life in common.
Good evening, Miss. I'm Purimal Palma. I work for the Daily Star, English newspaper in Dhaka. My first question is, what brings you to Bangladesh? Because this is the time when this country is going through a political transition, and last year was their uprising where people demanded more equality, ending inequality. So how does the church respond to the question of inequality? Because you are responsible for the Ministry of Integral Development. And in Bangladesh's context, how do you actually define this, the very idea of integrated or integral development? And whether or not church and the authorities, the local governments in Bangladesh or in other parts of Asia can work together.
Well, thank you for your very interesting question. My visit does not respond to or coincide with the current political situation. My visit is because of the anniversary of the Justice and Peace Commission. And within that context, of course, I have learned about the difficult moment that the country is living, and of the concern of people for a just solution and a new and stable government. And with regard to the question of inequality, the church encourages people to seek their equality and the respect for their rights through the political process. Politics is the way in which we try to achieve those rights and recognitions which are due to us because we are human beings and because we are citizens or because we are residents. So this is not a particularly Christian approach. This is basic human rights, and people need to struggle for their rights. And the church accompanies people in their efforts to obtain those rights. And at the same time, to answer your last question, at the same time, maintain dialogue with the authorities. We do not ever want to close the door. We always want to be available for dialogue and for exchange of viewpoints which can help find the solutions within a country or more broadly.
হ্যালো, আমরা দুইজনের প্রশ্ন দিতে পারবো, শেষ করব। Good evening, DCOB's Cardinal Michael Felix Sharni, SG. So, on behalf of Bangladesh Christian Jacob Quran, I would like to thank you and for your great visit to Bangladesh for 5 days. So, we have visited many places, important places, as you mentioned, Oxfordshire, Narayanganj, and for the children who are very in need. And at the same time, because you are in the Bangladesh, because now our country situation, you all are aware of this. So my question will be, apart from this little bit of the like peace and prosperity, like God has created us all human beings equally in rights, duties and dignity, and God wants us to live together, same as like brothers and sisters. So God has forbidden to kill innocent human life. Since you are integral of the human development, you are working on this. But in recent time in Bangladesh, we have seen there are a lot of mob violences and people being killed without their proper justice. So it feels me very sad because God has created, but no man has right to kill us without a proper justice. So how do we live? How do you play or your comments on this injustice? Thank you.
Well, first of all, our first response to these injustices has to be sympathy and solidarity. We have to allow our hearts to be touched by how others are suffering, especially those who are most vulnerable, whose lot seems to be just to suffer. So the first thing is to have sympathy. Those who are deprived of their rights, as you say, for us, this is not a political category. Yeah, this is not a sociological category. These are indeed our brothers and sisters who are suffering, and our first response has to be sympathy. And our second response has to be solidarity. In other words, we have to translate our fellow feelings, our human feelings, into action which accompanies and helps and supports people in their seeking of their rights. It's not the job of the church to give people rights. We do not give them their rights. They have their rights. We accompany them in seeking those rights to be respected.
Hello, I'm Rafael Palma. I'm freelance writer. What difference is to make because of your trip to Bangladesh? Number one. Number two, what step is to take up upon your visit here? Because I visited most of the parts of Bangladesh, and I saw the real situation of the vulnerable people, and they are really in need, how your short trip will impact in their lives.
Thank you for your question. If you ask for the impact of a trip like ours, three of us who have come from Rome, the impact can be summed up in terms of encouragement. The impact is encouragement. It is people knowing that they are not alone, people knowing that the Holy Father cares and is deeply concerned, and knowing that the Church here and internationally will make every effort to be of help to accompany the people in their great difficulties. Your question and some of the earlier questions are made even more complicated by the place of Bangladesh in the whole world system. In other words, the important injustices are not only here inside the country, there's also injustice in the relationships with other countries, or what they call the global system. And here it will take very far-seeing, very courageous reforms so that the poorer countries of the world, for example, do not suffer the consequences of climate change. Nearly nothing to that change. This is a tremendous injustice in the world. And the Church also seeks to raise her voice in this regard. So the coming conference on the environment in Brazil, our Church will be there very present, seeking to speak up also on behalf of Bangladesh and other countries who are the innocent victims of choices, of policies, of lifestyles of other countries. This is international injustice, which is similar to the injustices which we have seen here inside the country.
I would take an advantage for one more question. This is like just the idea that
There is no more time actually. Sorry.
yeah.
Your graphic exam. And now has to get up
Sure.
another program.
Your Eminence, sorry for extending one more question, which is like you just mentioned about climate change, and you definitely know that Bangladesh is a real victim of climate change, and it produces a lot of migrant population who move around the world, and they even cross the Mediterranean. But we know that in the recent times, the world is going through a different shift. For example, the US president, the current administration has cut funding worldwide. So USA funding has stopped. And it has also withdrawn from Paris Agreement. This only, on the other hand, the wars are going up. Europe is increasing its defense budget. It is also prompting other countries like Japan to increase their defense budget. So we are seeing a different trend globally. And all these events actually go against the spirit of what you are preaching here. So as the Vatican, the voice of the poor people marginalized, what is your call for the climate migrants, for the forced migrants, as well as to the rich countries who are creating a lot of inequalities worldwide?
What we seek to do is to bring the voice of those who suffer to the attention of those who are making the decisions and who are benefiting from the choices that are being made, and to try to help the world to recognize its obligations, that just as in this country you need to learn to live together as brothers and sisters, so too we need to learn it on the planetary level. Otherwise there is no future for us as a human family. And this is what we seek to do, as we have done during this visit on a very small scale, but this is also what we seek to do in our diplomatic efforts on the world level. Thank you.
Yeah, good afternoon, Your Excellency. I'd like to go back to just a short, your personal questions. You were the founding director of Justice Center for Social Faith and Justice in Canada. So, and then you were vice rector of a center university also. So how you define your Canadian experience to at present situation in Europe as your personal?
I'm sorry, I don't know how to answer your question. You have already obviously read my biography, and you know that every experience enriches the next one. So that's how I have come to be who I am and where I am. And I thank God for the path, and I hope you will also pray for my good health so that I can continue. Thank you, thank you.
We need your praises.
আমি বিশ্ব অফিসার মহোদয়কে অনুরোধ করছি সমস্ত ধন্যবাদ বক্তব্যটি শেষ করার জন্য, এবং শেষে আমরা একটা অনুরোধ করে
আমি সাংবাদিক ভাই বোনদের ধন্যবাদ জানাই। আমাদের কার্ডিনাল সেরেনির সঙ্গে সাক্ষাৎ পেয়েছে, সময় আছে হলে ভালো হইতো, কিন্তু আমাদের সারাদিন দেখছেন যে ভেরি লং ডে, and he is already tired, and already there is another program waiting for him, so he has to go right now.